to look at our journey as a whole and as a collective journey, that each one's journey and each one's experience is so different and so unique. But I believe paradoxically, all our journeys are quite similar, but it's the things that come to us in different ways, in different guises, that is the difference. But in essential practice, we face the same issues, we face the same circumstances, but in a different way, or in a different kind of setup in that way. I'm going to get rid of this. You've got this thing on the screen. I don't know if you can see it, can you? There, that's better, isn't it? Okay. And so I thought we'd look at it today. And it's interesting, isn't it, that as we travel life's great journey, we're often, I can't move it. No, what's happened? Sorry. I'll move you there, see if it goes. No? It might move now, I think. You know, there's so much complexity, isn't there? We're not sure of the direction that we need to go in. We're not sure how we're going to travel. And we get so many different kinds of directions, so many different kinds of advice in that particular way. And I thought today we'd look at the analogy of, I hope it moves, okay. Maybe we can look at this particular quote. The spiritual journey is not about acquiring something outside ourselves, rather than penetrating the deep layers and veils to return to the deepest truth within our own being. And so maybe this is the essential purpose of our whole journey. But we go through so many different kind of experiences, so many different kind of philosophical kind of equations and so on and so forth. And I thought we'd take the analogy, if it moves, of using the example of a boat to try and put a handle on our particular spiritual evolution in that particular way. And I think the more we try to understand our journey, the more we try to get a handle on it. And I think with awareness, things then can be made easier and more enjoyable. And then we're able to face the circumstances, we're able to deal with the things that come our way, and know in a way, best way to move forward rather than stop or give up or feel it's kind of hopeless in that particular way. And so using the boat as our example, hopefully we can kind of stick with it in that particular way. But I thought it'd be useful, to look at some criteria. I put a whole lot of stuff there. I hope it's not too much, but I thought put it on the screen might be helpful, because I think you can grasp it more, rather than me kind of like, we can talk about it. You say, what did he say? I can't remember it, or whatever. I think it's sometimes easier to see some of the points of the sort of criteria, I think, in a way, sort of guidelines. And so these are kind of general guidelines. You can add your own as well, that we can say that keeping the boat as the analogy, is the symbol. And we can say that our journey is essentially spiritual. It may seem kind of very trite or simplistic, but I think in today's world, today's materialistic world, that constantly we have to keep reminding ourselves that we are spiritual beings, and we're on a journey of spiritual awareness and discovery. The second point is that each boat is separate, and each boat is unique in that particular way, and we're responsible for our own boat, not anybody else's boat. You have no connection in a way with anybody else's boat except your own. And you're not the boat. You only sail in the boat. And it's kind of that connection with that analogy of the body and the soul. But we're using this aspect of the boat as our vehicle to help us progress through this kind of spiritual seas. Another kind of rule, or another kind of guidance that spirituality tells us, you can't sail another boat. It's not in your part. It's not in the spiritual laws that you're not responsible. You have no understanding or awareness of what other boats need or where they're going to. Yeah, well, I think in a way, yeah, we can argue that we're all going to the same kind of in direction, but the means or the journey for each one is different. We have different seas to cross and we have different places to visit on our journey. And so for us to interfere with another journey is disastrous. And this is what happens as people take over another person's boat, isn't it? So you cannot, and you haven't got the capability either. You know, you haven't got the awareness or the skills to sail another boat. And this is an interesting kind of debate, isn't it? That we can't control another person, even though sometimes we feel, you know, like we see it in families, we see it in organizations, we see it everywhere, isn't it? People taking over people's lives. And of course, they forget their own journey, their own boat. Of course, that crashes and the other boat crashes and we all sink and we're all, Individual situation tests come as your teachers. And they'll come, but they'll make you strong, developing understanding and awareness. So it's like seeing the benefit. Everything that comes is beneficial. And it's like understanding it. It's like it's meant for us to kind of learn from it in that way. And this will help us, even though maybe at the time it may seem quite difficult. It may seem it's horrendous, but it's there. But through it, you'll become more aware, more experienced. You know, as the kind of the saying goes, you know, that that your life is a product of your experiences, or your awareness increases through experience, not just through philosophy, but it's through the interaction, and you're coping with the interaction, gives you awareness, experience, and understanding. So it kind of it enhances your journey in that way. So that's the situation, and every situation is temporary. So things come, you know, things pass. It may be difficult, but it will pass. And so just like it's, sometimes you have to kind of batten down the hatches, as they say at sea. There's a storm and you go through it. You have to get through it. It's like COVID or a flu, isn't it? You get through it. You kind of cope with it. And then you know it's going to pass. And when life is good, enjoy it. You know, just enjoy, go on deck and enjoy the sun, enjoy the journey. It's really about enjoying the journey. But if all the time we're not sure what's happening or where we're going, where I'm coming from, what's going on, there is no enjoyment. There's no happiness. We have no ability to kind of appreciate not only ourselves, but the other boats that sail around us. And then you look at it, you start competing with them. They're going faster than I am. Oh, why am I going slow? Look at them, let's get back. And so we could become entangled in a kind of confusion of awareness. These situations, when they come, it won't last forever. And you will face personal dangers. This is quite interesting in a way, isn't it? That it's making us aware that the journey is not a harmonious journey. It's like if you've been on a sea journey, one moment it's very placid, it's very calm, it's very beautiful. And the next moment, waves come and you're not feeling so good. Things are not working out and you're kind of like, seasickness is probably, for me anyway, it's probably the worst experiences I ever experienced. You just want to die, with seasickness. But these are things that come, isn't it? Like dangers of ego. You're going to have your own ego, clashes of other people's ego, inertia, things aren't working, you're not moving, influence, other people will kind of affect you. There'll be confrontation. These are part and parcel of your journey. These are the things that come on your journey of spiritual evolution, on your spiritual travel over the seas of the world. It will happen. It is happening and will happen. But it's like being aware. It's like observers. These are these things that come. And of course, as we see here, you'll need courage. You'll need determination, I think, to deal with it. And there is a saying, isn't there, that it's only dead fish swim with the current. And so you have to kind of like make effort. It's not just, we're not just passive. We're not just sitting there on the boat saying, we have to make effort in a way, because that's what the journey is about. At different times, we have to kind of contend with the things and deal with things in the right way. Every situation, be benevolent. This is probably the key, I always think, you know, one of the key criteria of our journey. Be benevolent. In that way, you will receive. It's like, you know, the great law of cause and effect, isn't it? Whatever you give, you receive. And whatever you receive, then it becomes part of you. It's like if you don't give it, you don't experience it. It's passive, it's dormant. And maybe that if it's lacking in your life, if something's lacking in your life, it means you haven't given it. How about that? If there's something lacking that you haven't got or you're wanting, it means because you haven't given it. And you're giving it to yourself. It's there, but you're holding on to it. And so kind of the great laws of spirituality, you have to give it. You have to give away. It's like ballast. You have to throw it into the sea and it comes back. The waves throw it back to you. It's like you have it, throw it back, and it comes back. It comes back to you on your deck of your ship. So to succeed, be guided by your own truth and the support from God. So this is the kind of key factor of our journey, isn't it? The key factors is rely on your own self-belief, on your own intuitive awareness, and of course the support from God. God's are there. He will guide you, but you need to take that help. It's not just that he's there, but you have to take that help. And this is really what meditation is, isn't it? God is constant. He's like there, but then you have to link up. And this is what yoga is, isn't it? It's connection. And you connect, and then you activate that help. It becomes part of your kind of life in that particular way. Your journey will reveal your true self to yourself. You know, that as you go on, you begin to have realization. As we travel on, we begin to understand, you know, more and more about our purpose, our journey, and so on. And of course, ultimately, you will succeed and reach your destination. You have to. You're eternal. Your journey's eternal. You're eternal. The drama's eternal. So you cannot but fail. You can't just finish in that particular way. So these are a few of the rules. I know we probably could have a lot of time to kind of discuss these things, but they're there to kind of give us an understanding in that particular way, to help us deal with maybe things. And maybe, in essence, this is a very well-known state. You probably know this particular affirmation. The purpose of your life is to discover your gift, isn't it? Maybe the gift is who you are, or your original quality, all these are your qualities. But your work of your life is to develop them, is to make them part of your life, make them as part of your interactive self. It's your personality becomes these. And the meaning of life is to give your gift away. You have to give it. Everything you have. And this goes against the great materialistic mantra of accumulation. Hold on to it. You got to hold on to it. You got to accumulate. You got to store it away, because if you don't, others will get it. And if they've got it, you haven't got it. And if you haven't got it, they've got it. And you go, okay, and you hold on. And so we're infected, we're influenced by materialism, which is all about holding on, selfishness, self-centeredness. Spirituality is the opposite. Give it. You have to have this hands. You know, in all the belief systems, all the cultural, all the spiritual, all the deities, all the icons, they always have hands like this, like, look, I have nothing. I've given everything away. Isn't it like this? And so in a way, we give everything and we receive everything. And so maybe this is the kind of our mantra for our particular journey. And our mantra, which we always should be sort of reminding ourselves, all the time. We don't need much, isn't it? Last week we were talking about the essence of consciousness. We were talking about how to keep ourselves integrally light. And all we need to keep reminding ourselves, I am peaceful, light and free. I am guided by love, supported by God. I am peaceful, light and free. I'm guided by love, supported by God. It's very powerful, isn't it? It's like, it's talking to yourself. The affirmation is reminding ourselves, telling ourselves, teaching ourselves, awakening ourselves to this truth. That this is your nature. Your primal energy is love. God's primal energy is love. And when we connect with love, it connects with God's love. You know, I was having a discussion during the week, and we were talking about why is love so important in all belief systems, in all philosophies, and in a way, love is our main energy. And the minute we connect with it, we connect automatically with God's love. God's love is there because God's love is it's like God is not omnipresent, but his love is almost omnipresent. You know, if you could see it in that way. And we have that love within us. And the minute we experience love, we release it and we connect with God's love. And this love is activated in that particular way. And so it's so important to move with love in that way. And that love then becomes kind of an active energy, an active power within ourselves. So this is our mantra for our journey. So let's resume our journey. Right, and I've got these are some of the challenges I thought we'd look at. There's probably a huge amount of other ones, but I thought these are kind of the main areas that we could look at to kind of see some of the things we have to deal with. And so we look at sharks. Sharks, our favorite animal, isn't it? To scare us, to frighten us, to kind of, we look at it. We're obsessed by sharks, aren't we? And we can see that the shark is really representative of individuals. We just look at it as individuals, but also you can see corporations, we can see or circumstances and so on, but maybe individuals. And these are kind of individuals or people who are intent on causing sorrow, maybe upheaval, destructive in nature, individuals who are exploitive and manipulative. And it's interesting, isn't it, that sharks, you know, according to scientists, are drawn by blood. If there's blood in the water, you're drawn to the shark. And so in the same way, you know, the shark mentality, these individuals are drawn by negativity. If there's a weakness in ourselves, so they're drawn to us because it's something that they can exploit. It's something they could control, something they can manipulate. And so these weaknesses, it could be fear that we have within ourselves, confusion, loneliness, sadness, whatever. And so the shark consciousness or the shark mentality is very predatory. And there's a huge amount of individuals with different personality traits that are very dangerous for us on our journey. You know, the extremes are like people with psychopathic tendencies. These are people that they've got no empathy or no conscience to the things they do, and they think it's okay. They can't see, they don't see the effect it's having, the pain or the sorrow. You think, how could they do that? But it's part of the malaise that they're having. Or sociopaths, probably some of the worst sharks, isn't it? And a sociopath is an individual who has got no regard for feelings or understanding of others. And so, you know, they'll just go ahead and do the things they do. And we see them in society, we see them in the world. And that's part of the kind of the sickness of this particular time, and so on and so forth. And so many different individuals. So what do we do when we meet all these kind of sharks mentalities? Is Stay in your boat. Don't get in the water. Right? Which means stay with your truth. Don't leave your truth. Don't step outside into external consciousness. And again, it's like when you meet sharks, okay, you're out there, but show no fear, show no weakness in that particular way, you know. Don't react when we meet these, okay. And often they say that if you fall in the water and the shark comes up to you, what do? You're supposed to anyway, is hit it on the nose, which means we could interpret this as use understanding. Understanding will deal with the issue. You'll know what to do. Then they'll see what you know, how to deal with it. And so you won't be attacked in that particular way. And of course, meditation creates a vibrational energy field that actually is a kind of protection. And so the field protects you against these predatory beings, individuals, our spiritual brothers, to some degree, you know, in that particular way. It's an interesting area in that particular way. Pirates, let's look at pirates. And what do pirates do? They rob, steal, kill, don't they? And we've got to think about what are the pirates that we meet on our spiritual journey, you know, that maybe waste thought. You know, these are the things that waste our time, steal our time. These are the things that take our energy, take our attention, that are manipulative, are bossy. They want to take over our lives in different ways, consciously or subconsciously. And so it's, you know, things, and also within ourselves, you know, things that waste our time, that steal our time, are our own individual mindsets, you know, jealousy, wrong company, and so on. And so all these type of things steal whatever you have, you know, that whatever you have, whatever you built up. And so they take your time, they take your attention. And so what happens is that things that we've accumulated, of course, we can talk about physical things as well. You know, pirates all want to take your physical things too, you know, your money, your achievements, and so on. But we're primarily looking at kind of psychological, spiritual, psychosomatic kind of things in that particular way. And so what do you do? What do we need to do, you know, and deal with these type of things, you know, because these individuals can be very clever, you know. Certain pirates, certain individuals, they attach themselves to ourselves. You know, pirates, when they used to attack the ships, they used to lash themselves to the other boat. They used to ride up and connect their boat to the other person. And so what happens is that individuals, what they do is they connect with us. They burden you with their concerns, their worries and their fears, you know, and they'll talk, and it's very hard to get away, isn't it? It's a kind of like it's like glue. It's very difficult, and they vampirize our energy, our time. They delay us, they burden us, and so on. And so, in a way, you've got to find strategies to kind of deal with these kind of things, to kind of deal with. But it's the first thing is being aware of it, being aware of these individuals, and sometimes you have to kind of, what do you do? You have to push them off in a very subtle way, you know, and deal with it in that way through kind of a pure consciousness, through awareness, through vibration, through understanding. Sometimes you have to stand up and deal with it forcibly. Otherwise, it'll just carry on. You know, I think every one of us have been subject to this kind of burdening, this kind of vampirization, this kind of, you know, attachment to ourselves on that particular way, which is very common, isn't it? Because people are empty, people want somehow to be held, be supportive. But what happens is, of course, both boats begin to sink. Both boats begin to lose direction and lose momentum. You can't carry on with your journey. And I think one of the best ways we can help people is to carry on with our journey, You can help people, but you can do it in a way that actually it's in a more meaningful and a much more powerful way, especially this time in the world at this particular time. And you have to be very discriminating, I think, how we can help people. There are many, many people who are very devious. Many people have ulterior motives, and they come, you know, the old expression, you know, wolf in sheep's clothing. And it's very deceptive. You have to be very discriminating. Pirates are very clever in that way. You know, they're not like the picture, come sailing in with their flag shining. No, often come with the opposite in that particular way. Luxury liners. This is another challenge on our journey, isn't it? You know, that these are people who are attractive, charismatic, very powerful, and we want to be like them. We want what they have. And isn't it? This is the age of attraction. This is the age of glamour, isn't it? This is the age of show, and we want what they have. And we often blindly follow that particular kind of ethos that they set up. And what happens is we get distracted. You know, remember the rules I was saying is that you can't play another part. You know what? You can't play their part. You can't, and they can't play your part. But because our vision is externalized, we just see what's shiny. And it's actually interesting that often many things have a false facade. Things aren't always what they seem to be. And because the situation can make us feel kind of insignificant or not good enough or very small or so on, isn't it? And we become discontented. And this can happen on a spiritual level as well. You know, we see other, maybe people on a spiritual path doing certain things and behaving in a certain way. And we look at them and we think, oh, they're so wonderful. Oh, they're so incredible. Oh, I love what they say. They're always smiling. But you just, you know, again, a cliche, isn't it? Don't judge a book by its cover, you know, and so on. You know, and the situation is often never what it seems to be. And you just have to play your own part, and, you know, don't look at anybody's part. Don't be swayed. Don't follow in the tram lines of another person. You know, as I say, you know, that sometimes people can create as we know, artificial facades. You know, it's not so much they're doing it just for the sake of doing it, but sometimes they do it to attract. Or what can happen is that they can, you know, fulfill their own particular ego, and there's nothing behind it. It's there to kind of pull you in, to trap you for various reasons and so on. And so this kind of, we live in an incredibly illusory world, and so many things are illusory, not real. So many things are artificial. They're there at the trappers, and we have to be so careful now. I think as meditators, as travelers on the spiritual path, this is a very precarious time for everybody. The spiritual journey is very tricky at this particular moment, I think. And also sometimes if you do see somebody who's got wonderful qualities and talents and you want to be, well, just remember who made them like it. How did they become like that? Yeah, it's not there. Maybe they're showing God's grace, God's support, their own spiritual effort. So it's a kind of reminder that it's God that helped them to become like that, directly or indirectly, or one way or another. And it's like, it's their part, not yours. So just left to say, good wishes, well done, carry on. You know, nice shit, but you've got to carry on in your own way and enjoy your own journey in that particular way. I'm looking at, we've got storms. I'm just looking at the time. I think storms are quite interesting, isn't it? That we have to face on our journey. You know, that we have two types of storm. You know, that you've got the inner storm and the outer storm. The outer storm are about circumstances, you know, that sweep us along, that affect us in so many different ways. You know, it's like the external typhoon, the hurricane, and so on. And these are things like bankruptcy. This is things about a little about death, divorce, illness, and so on. And it affects us mentally, physically, emotionally, and so on, isn't it? And it's a way, I mean, I think all of us have been through many of these kind of experiences, and we have to sort of step away from it in that particular way and understand it. It's karma. It's an effect of things that I've done either in the past or in the present moment. And so I have to kind of not hold it, not dwell on it, because this often engenders or increases it the more I give my thoughts to it. But it's something that's happening to my boat. Go back to your boat. It's like the boat is kind of showing something that's not working. And so let me just repair it. Let me just carry on. And don't worry about it. You're in the boat, but you're not having that experience. It's not you that's experiencing that effect, but it's just the boat. And you've got to extricate yourself away from it. And that kind of consciousness, you can give it spiritual energy, spiritual power, spiritual awareness. Of course, do the right things, apply the right things to fix that area that needs fixing. But by being detached, you'll have more discrimination to apply the right remedy. And sometimes we because the mind is confused, we apply the wrong things. We panic and we throw everything at it, and so it takes a long time. Or we worry. I'm sick. You're not sick. Your body is unwell. This is a huge step of consciousness in that particular way. Connected with kind of areas of storms are things like mists, isn't it? Where you get sea. I was thinking of just now, you get mists, and these are all influences, these are like subtle ego or and so on. When you either ourselves, we create these mists, or mists of others full of self-importance, ego, and so on, influence, fears. These create a miasma around us, and we lose our way. It blocks us. Our eyes become kind of unsure. Whirlpools. That's what you get, isn't it? Whirlpools. These are kind of like situations, issues that suck us in, isn't it? You're spun round and you can't get out of it. Pulling around, the more you think about it, the more it sucks, you spin you out, you more worry about it, the more you're thinking about it. And you've got to kind of get away from it, often just leave it. Last week we talked about kind of how we can step away and see it from a distance as a detached observer, and then the situation is diminishing, or you move away. It's a situation created by others that's sucking us in, or if it's a situation you find yourself in, we know the right procedures to go ahead and deal with it. It's like saying it's happening, it's part of the journey, and then you don't become so emotional, you don't become so kind of caught up with kind of self-blame and corporate blame and panic and so on. And what you get at sea, of course, is you go into things like doldrums, isn't it? Where you get becalmed. Your life sometimes can be becalmed and bored. There's no progress. And so we need new energy. This is what happens on the journey. On the sea journey, sometimes you reach areas where there's no air, there's no wind, and the boat is not moving. Okay, that's part of the play. That's part of your journey. So you need new initiatives. You need to do differently. And so meditation is that regeneration. It's like, again, applying a new energy, new enthusiasm to make you move forward into a new location where you can then move forward and do something that's more meaningful. It's just temporary in that particular way. Let's quickly jump onto wrecks. We feel like a wreck sometimes, don't we? Wrecks are it's interesting, isn't it, that you might have been a wreck at other times, but these are hurt, damaged, confused individuals, And what happens is a wreck, when a ship hits a wreck, it kind of can cause a lot of damage, doesn't it? It kind of can hold your ship, it can damage you, it can sink you. And they trap us, a hurt soul, a damaged soul, in that particular way, looking at the ship picture there, and it can pull us down, it can sink us. And it's maybe we get caught up, it's a little bit we talked about earlier, with their issues and their grievances, their weaknesses, their doubts, and you sucked in, and you can, it infects you in that particular way. And these can be your friends. It can often be old connections. Yeah. And it's quite interesting. A wreck is usually below the surface, and so these kind of situations or circumstances are not initially apparent. They're hidden, and so when you come into connection, you're not aware of it. It's not seemingly apparent that this is what's happening, or what this individual is like, and it can bring a lot of emotional turmoil, because they can make you feel guilty, they can make you feel angry, they can make you feel as weak as they are. It's like flu. They have flu and they give you the flu. You know, self-doubts, individual doubts, weaknesses, confusion, and so on. Yeah, you're right. And so on. And these are kind of because they're trapped themselves, and so it kind of sucks you in that way. And so it brings emotional turmoil a lot, Rex, doesn't it? So it needs understanding, it needs compassionate awareness. And it's actually interesting that many souls it's like being in a storm and it's all damaged. I think what we need is good wishes for these particular individuals. Often it's not getting caught up with it, but just sometimes understanding of the power of good wishes and pure feelings, rather than trying to refloat them. You know, if they're wrecked, they know how to regain their journey, but often it's kind of a lethargy, or there isn't the will at that moment. And so the only way we can help them is through yoga, through our good wishes, through our pure feelings, so they can refloat themselves, they can regain momentum and begin their journey again. They will. They must do. Their journey is eternal. They are eternal. Their destination is eternal. So they won't stay like that. But sometime or other, they will have to begin their journey. But you have to carry on. But often, because we have a sanskar, we have a nature of support and good wishes, that we get caught up with it in that particular way. So I think it's quite an interesting area that sometimes we get trapped with. Just look at the time. Let's have a look here. Well, this is an interesting quote in that particular way, isn't it? That I like this one, and I thought it was apposite for this particular analogy. Ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets in them. So don't let what's happening around you get inside you, isn't it? Don't let it get into your head and weigh you down. This is what happens on our journey. Things get inside, and we kind of go through a lot of turmoil, a lot of confusion, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of anger, and it's triggering also issues, memories, stuff from our past. A kind of aligning with the kind of commonality of kind of waste thoughts of others. And it kind of colludes together and says, oh yeah, it must be right. Because that's the kind of pervading ethos that's happening around. We have to kind of be so integrated into I feel anyway, into our own journey. Sometimes you have to be so self-obsessed, but also having the belief in our own self and our own journey, but not at the same time denying what's going on around us. It's like the Russian Navy is being bombarded. It's like all the ships around are being sunk, and everywhere there's crashes, everywhere there's wreckage, everywhere, isn't it? Everywhere you go. But you've got to negotiate it, isn't it? We've got to kind of like find our own particular way. And I was just looking at maybe. I'm just thinking of the time really. I was going to do well, let's move on. I think maybe here might be. Well, look at this one. Let's look at this maybe. These are some of the supports. I try to keep with our analogy of the ships, and generally these are the three types of support our ship can take, in that particular way. So haven, or that's the old-fashioned term, harbour, harbors of safety when you're out at sea, isn't it, in that particular way. And so these are the things that can help our ship of our life as it sails the seas of the world, as we interact and connect and pass all the stuff that's on the seas of chaos at this particular moment. And these are kind of probably good company, beautiful places, isn't it? That we can find some kind of respite in our life at certain times, where we can regenerate, we can regain spiritual energy. Nature, nature still has lots of good energy, even though the world has been affected by a huge negative psychic activity where everything's reaching a very low level. But nature still holds a lot of its powerful support. And so nature can help us remind ourselves, can regenerate ourselves, and help us renew our kind of enthusiasm and our kind of journey where we can escape and so on. And meditation, of course, is a great haven, a great harbor where we can step in and just for a moment regain, refit, regenerate, rejuvenate, and kind of renew our kind of purpose and our energy. And of course, the ultimate harbor, of course, is God. God, the great kind of spiritual harbor where, that you can find respite, you can find renewal, you can find guidance and so on, We forget God's been so out of our mindset for such a long time that we've forgotten God is there. The memory of God in all the culture and all the belief system as God has been a support, an uplifter and so on. But I think we have to kind of activate it, God's active energy of love. Lighthouses. It's old-fashioned, isn't it? I don't know. There are a few lighthouses around, isn't there? Like that. And these are our lighthouses show the way, don't they? They guide our boat to the harbour of safety. Hallelujah. And of course they're warning as well. Lighthouses are there to warn us that certain directions. The boat, if you go down there's rocks, there's shallows and so on, and so that that having that awareness that the boat can find its way, can navigate or negotiate its way safely, through difficulties away. And so, so we use harbors. Harbors are maybe things like positive memories that we can use. That lighthouses are about becoming light ourselves, isn't it? That we become a lighthouse. That through our own self-awareness and through our own spiritual regeneration, we can ignite our own light, and we can inspire and show others the way to safety and help ignite their light. That light will ignite other lights in that particular way. And so we become lighthouses, although we take the support and light of others. And we can, it's worth probably a little kind of mantra, isn't it? That I'm a being of light, full of light, and I share my light with the world, isn't it? I'm a being of light, full of light, share my light with the world. And so on. You could develop that analogy in that particular way, that how our boat of our life is supported in that way. And the sun, in the past, wasn't it, that sailors with no maps to support their journey relied very much on the sun to help orientate and guide their journey. And so spirituality, of course, we take the support of the Supreme Sun and to help guide and support our journey, and help us create obviously a new awareness, new support. And the sun, of course, is a huge analogy, isn't it? Like we were talking last week about the analogy of the sun. It regenerates, it rejuvenates, it's healing, it's uplifting, and so on. And so taking the support of God, the great sun, our journey can be made easier, can be made more powerful, and so on. And we can kind of give ourselves a more direct way to find ourselves. And it's kind of reminding ourselves of that, you know, like, again, using a kind of affirmation. It's like, I think you have to keep reminding yourself, this is what affirmations are about, isn't it? We could say, you know, visualize the sun, you know, I don't know, if I got this thing there, I don't know what, oh yeah, you can use something like this, you know, that you could just visualize the sun and say, you know, like God, the welcoming sun, you know, God's light refreshes me. God's light recharges me. God's light guides me. God's light fills me with love. And this is all we need to do, is just keep reminding ourselves about the role of the Supreme Sun, and whose role is to just give us that support, that light, that guidance on our journey, help us negotiate the difficulties of our difficult world at this particular moment, and to help us in that way. So I'll stop there, because I rushed through it really in a way, because of we started so late. But just looking at using creative awareness, creative thinking, to help us kind of like help us look at our journey, and help us look at the issues that we face in a more creative way, and not just to see it in a kind of limited way, but using symbology and analogy. Also, it changes the perspective of the things we deal with, and it just doesn't become individual, or we don't move into blame, or we don't get caught up in the minutiae that often that happens when things aren't going right, or so on. We're trying to make sense of things, because I think for me, the materialistic consumerist world, you know, maybe that's the general label I would say, always wants to limit us, wants to trap us, wants to stop any kind of creative thinking to happen. It just wants to kind of nullify our spiritual beauty and our spiritual self-esteem, which is full of new awarenesses and new vistas and new experiences, and just wants to make us passive receptors of its products. Isn't it? Constantly bombarded, constantly, and creating fear of not having, fear of not being able to kind of be part of that kind of world of accumulation. And it gives us so many scenarios. This will happen to you if you don't do this. You won't be smiling, you won't be happy. And so constantly, you know, I think analogy and symbology really is helpful, kind of lifts us up, and it gives us a kind of a memory, a trigger of a new creative experience in that particular way. So maybe I'll stop there, and maybe we've got a bit of time. We can add. People might like to share anything, or any questions, or anything else.
There was one question from an audience participant. The question was, you know, that a single boat or a boat is in an ocean is surrounded by a lot of water. How do you prevent that water from getting in? So in other words, how do you remain detached from your surroundings and not allow the water to get into your boat?
Well, you just got to look after the boats, haven't you? You've got to. It's like you're talking about our consciousness, isn't it? The boat of consciousness. So we've got to make sure what is our consciousness. That if we go back originally to, you know, what the boat, that I'm a spiritual being, and if I kind of keep enhancing my self-awareness, keep enhancing my self-esteem, keep aware of my own inner beauty, you know, keep understanding, because all we're doing here is discovering more about ourselves. I think our whole journey is about finding who we are. That's all it is, really, the whole game. And God is guiding us into this journey of self-realization. And so the more I feel, the more we discover about ourselves, the more we become then immune, the more we become protected against the waves of the world, the more things don't come in. When you think things that come in are things like doubts or, the whispers of the world that says, you do need to get a bigger car, it'll make you happier. And you go, really? Oh. Or you do need to get to kind of a nose job. Yes, if you change your size of your nose, you'll be more beautiful. Really? I will. I think I might do that. And you kind of, it's like, and these are kind of things that come in because we're listening to this kind of illusory kind of rubbish. And we've been so indoctrinated into kind of this kind of false philosophy, false belief, false statements from our parents have done this. Education have done this. Our friends, school, media, constantly we're bombarded, aren't we? Constantly bombarded with saying you're not good enough, you're not clever enough, you're not beautiful enough. And this is the stuff that comes into us and constantly is flooding in. This is like the boat is flooding in every corner, every creek and everything coming in. And we try bailing out and we bail it out. And I'll buy something, I'll do something. Yeah, and all we need to do is just integrate our own being, just hold on to our own being. And immediately we push back everything. It's a kind of an immune system. It pushes back, it blocks, it holds, it supports, it protects. Nothing can come in, nothing. But the minute we let go of it, or we doubt it, or we listen to kind of the whispers of the world, and we begin to kind of like accept it, this is when the water gets in, isn't it? This is what comes in. And so we've got to kind of constantly work at it. It's like we're on this journey, and it's like I'm under no kind of misapprehension to say it's easy. It's not easy. It's not an easy journey. We have to keep constantly working at this, reminding ourselves. Like spiritual study is all about saying, I'm a soul, I'm a spiritual being, but what type? And so all the time we've got to keep saying, I'm a beautiful being. I'm more beautiful than what the world's showing outside. They're showing you new electric cars, they're showing you big houses with technology, they're showing you glamorous and you've got to keep saying, but no, spirituality is more beautiful than that, and that's not beauty. But it's like a game, isn't it, that we're playing. We have to kind of keep this, develop this, work on this. Because you're going to say, well, does that give you happiness? Again, you've got to combat it as well to say, well, okay, if I did embrace that, will I feel better? Will I feel happier? Will it benefit me? Will it? And of course, if you're honest with yourself, you'll get the right answer. And so I think constantly it's a great question, because it's a question that's integrated into all spiritual study, into all spiritual paths. We have to keep constantly tuned and focused. You have to be alert, all the time, on this, and not as we are now in the physical world. We're very alert, aren't we, to what we eat and all the kind of toxins and all the stuff that's everywhere. People are really kind of clued in. Well, let's be aware also the things that are affecting consciousness. Maybe that's it. Only a few people will apply to this particular path, where we become aware of consciousness, the well-being of consciousness, the well-being of our spiritual self, because our journey is important, the things we have to achieve and where we're going to, what we kind of do in that particular way.
So there was another question, so the opposite of what we just asked. Once the water is in, it's always a challenge to stay afloat. And so how do you get the water out once the ship is damaged? Yes.
Well, I think it's easy enough, really. As I think that it's kind of accepting, that you might be going under. That's a good question as well, actually. All of us are in that state. That question: how do you get the water out? How do you get the influences? And we're full of influences, full of contamination. From the past. We're full of influence from our past, philosophies, belief systems, and all that stuff, and and stuff that we're hearing, and that's constantly within the kind of the boat of our life. And I think in a way, it's just like doing the right thing, doing the right thing and not carrying on doing the things that caused the pain in the past. And I think automatically, kind of like it's the stuff, it just goes away. You know, the effect of that. You know, and it's not to beat ourselves up, not to beat ourselves up, or not to blame. It's not. There's nobody to blame. It's just part of the play of life, isn't it? You know, that's what happened, and I move on. You know, like we were saying on the rules, we move on. Things pass. Now there's a new situation where I can, you know, do the right thing and create a better circumstance in my life. It's an easy thing because what we're dealing with is something that's natural, something that's our natural nature. So all we're doing is reasserting it. He's automatically switching on the light. It's there. The minute you switch on the light, the darkness is gone. There's not a big deal. It's not difficult. It's not a big deal. And the stuff that's come in, it's like darkness. And so what do? You don't kind of throw the darkness out. Go away, push out. You just switch the light on. And in the same way, just switch on the light of your own love. Switch on the light of your own self-awareness. Automatically, you're fine. You're fine. You know, and of course, but then again, don't listen to the voices of the past or listen to outside, because they'll say, oh, that light's too bright, turn it off. You know, meaning come back to where you were. And you say, no, I'll absolutely. So it's a kind of this, you gotta, yeah.
Were there any other questions? Those that are connected on Zoom?
You're not getting seasick, were you, on the journey? It's a very deep topic in a way, and it's like we looked at areas that, you know, that each area needed a very in-depth approach to it, really. You know, each of the kind of challenges that we have. You know, we very generally kind of looked at, you know, solutions to this, but each one has psychological and kind of profound approaches to it. But generally, you know, looking at the way we can deal with it, I think everyone knows how we can deal with it. It's just, I think the key is understanding these things and then carrying on and knowing the solution. The solution is so easy, very simple. But we live in a complicated world that only honors complication, and they want some kind of philosophical PhD answer. Yes, let me write 7,000 books and give you the answer, which is really just be peaceful. You know, like this one.
So I guess if there are no questions, Jim, if you can take us onto a journey, a meditation journey.
Okay. Meditation. So, this is from one of my, I wrote it a while back, so it works all right. It's one of my books, so I hope you don't mind me reading it. It's just from a short meditation. So is everyone okay? So just step inside into your beautiful inner world of light. You know, we're beings of light, aren't we? Angelic beings. And to think about that, my journey is a journey of relaxed and peaceful calm. It's a journey connecting and aligning myself with nature's great beauty. And I look around and I see the clouds, the open sky, the harmony of all the natural worlds. And I'm drawn to that wonder, to that silence. And my heart and my mind feel linked and connected. I'm kind of held spellbound, entranced by such hypnotic loveliness, such serene, majestic arrangement of fragrant, vibrant forms around me. Beautiful. And my life journey is like this path. My journey is one of discovery. It's a journey of becoming and deepening experience. And on this very varied, changing journey that I travel, there are, I know, many twists and many turns. There are times of quiet and times when others join and others leave. And this I accept. I let go. I wish them well on their separate journey, but I travel on. It's a journey where are those who help and support and provide great care. And to those I give my gratitude, thanks and all my love for their support of my own journey. And in my return, I will do the same to help, to heal, to help also to support, to help laugh and to smile. So I travel my path. I sail on my own journey. I travel through the seas of the world with peace, with love, remembering, appreciating, embracing my world with the support of the Supreme and my spiritual friends and brothers. Omshanti.